Hey guys, this is Communications. Welcome to my review of the 1991 football sports comedy, Necessary Roughness. Now, Necessary Roughness is a film that I saw a long time ago and I wasn't the biggest fan of. I thought it was just meh, not really much of anything. But I guess I was in a better mood this time around and I checked it out again and I enjoyed the movie. I still think it's above average. I don't think it's a great movie. Um, the more and more I think about it, it's just it's not a film I would find myself watching over and over again. But it's an above average comedy. I do agree with what Roger Ebert has to say. He says that it generates genuine charm, and it does. It is a very charming, fun comedy with a good cast. Scott Bakula is a lot of fun in this, and but it's hard to not avoid the major league comparisons. I mean, the studio themselves even specifically made this poster specifically like Major League, because they're like, we wanted to be like Major League, because Major League was a surprise hit for Paramount. So they decided, okay, let's do another sports comedy and let's make it this time as football. And so, but I think it's an endearing movie in its own right, though, with a really underrated score by Bill Conti. I mean, a great score. Really, it makes me want to stand up and cheer. It's just like, da 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 da. I like it's so cool that I'm gonna see if I find it here, because somebody posted it on YouTube. And I'm really a big fan of this score. So usually I don't play music for a little bit while I'm doing my reviews, but I love this score. This is how the movie opens up with the score, with Scott Bakula just sitting in his farm throwing passes. And I thought the way that he had his set up, like he had this he put like these scarecrows up that would like have springs on them. So every time he'd throw the football, it hit it right in the numbers and knocked the scarecrow back, and it popped back up, and it was pretty cool actually. It's like his own little obstacle course for in his farm. Just turn this up. It's just my type of music, really. Totally my type of music. I don't care if I look like a complete fool. I don't give a shit. The song's cool. I like this music. I like this score. It was officially released on Entrada, on one of those Entrada special editions, but like it's out of print already and hard to find. So. They don't make music like this anymore. They really don't. Bill Conti is a master. This type of score. It's a great composer, one of my favorites. Of course, he did Rocky as well. So anyway, just thought I'd share that a little bit because I really do like that score. I think it's a really underrated piece of music. Much like the film itself. Is it a great movie? Like I said, it's not a great film, but it's a good movie. I would say it's a good film. I would not say it's a bad movie. I mean, it didn't get a really high rating on IMDb. I mean, it gets a 6 point. I think it gets a 6.0, so that's a pretty decent rating. But a film that I think honestly is not as good as this, which I was surprised by, because I am a fan of this movie as well, The Replacements, with Keanu Reeves. That gets a much higher review, on IMDb, like higher ratings at 6.5. And critics like that a little bit more than they did this. Roger Ebert was one of the few people that even remotely even liked this movie. He gave it 3 stars. But anyway, the film was released in 1991, and it did a decent amount. It made over $20 million. It made $26 million in box office. I think it cost that much to make. So it might have made a little bit of a profit, but it wasn't as big of a hit as Major League. It was directed by Stan Dragoti, who I remember him the most for directing my favorite vampire comedy, Love at First Bite with George Hamilton. And it's written by Rick Natkin and David Fuller. It stars Scott Bakula as Paul Blake, who's this former high school quarterback standout who had to end up giving up his career, his potential career as a football player. He ended up giving up his dreams and of going to college and playing football, and as a quarterback, to take care of his dad's farm because his father passed away. So what happens though is he gets a second chance from a coach that he used to know from back in high school, played by Robert Loggia, and because he gets a second chance to become a quarterback for the Texas State University Fighting Armadillos, who were once one of the most powerful teams in college football, but after winning consecutive national championships, massive NCAA violations resulted in the program having to forfeit years' worth of victories. And all of the previous players and coaches are banned from returning except Charlie Banks, the only clean player who never got to play despite having heart. And Charlie Banks has a little bit of role, he has a little bit of a role here and there. I mean, he's played by Andrew Lauer, and I thought the actor did a good job, but he didn't have a lot of screen time. But the scenes that he's in, he's good. He's a guy he was not the fastest guy, the strongest guy. He came on as a walk-on, but he had that grit, he had that heart. And so the new coaching staff, led by Ed Straight Arrow Gennaro, played by Hector Elizondo in a fun role, is forced to build an almost entirely new team with little assistance. No athletic scholarships are available, forcing them to hold tryouts. So they hold these tryouts in this gymnasium, and they run in and have this guy named Popke who his glasses and stuff, and it makes people like me look bad because he reminds me of myself. Someone the same build or whatever, and he can't throw a football to save his life. Can't hit the broadside of the barn. I can at least throw a football so somebody can catch it. I mean, come on, man. He throws the football. He's like, hunt, hike. And he throws the football and smacks the dude in the face with it, and then throws the ball, and he misses everything and hits the backboard of on a basketball hoop. And of course, they can't find a quarterback, so that might be the only guy they're gonna have to deal with. And you can definitely tell that what's his name? Come on, Robert Loggia is not pleased with that, because he's pretty much, there's nothing. What are we gonna do? It's like, how about that? He stinks at two sports. And Coach Gennaro's like, I can work with him. Just butt out of my offense. And Coach Rigg, who's played by Robert Loggia, is like, if you can build an offense around a guy who throws like Edward Scissorhands, we're gonna be playing a hell of a lot of defense. So there's some fun lines. There's a lot of fun lines of dialogue like that in this film. So he can't throw worth shit. So they don't have a real quarterback. So Rigg decides upon himself to try to find a quarterback, and he finds it in Scott Bakula, and contacts him on his farm and tells him, that you have a second chance and you still have one more year of eligibility left in college. And so he decides to, become the Armadillo's quarterback. But there's even more problems, because there's this dean who's a dickhead, played by an actor who's been in a few other films. He's one of the weakest parts of the film for me personally. Larry Miller, who plays Dean Philip Elias. He's a unlikable guy. He's definitely a guy you love to hate, but his performance I thought was just terrible. I really thought it was terrible. I thought the acting was just really bad. And he's an actor anyway, which I think to me, he's a poor man's Dan Aykroyd. He has none of the charisma. He just has the same sort of line delivery, but it's really stilted, and it just doesn't work. I've always thought the guy was a shitty actor, and this film is no exception. But he's definitely a guy you don't like, so I guess that's the point, but it's just his performance sucks. So anyway, but he wants the team to fail so we can scrap it because he doesn't like football. So the coaches soon have some, makeshift, team in place. But due to Dean Elias being a dickhead, he declares many prospective players ineligible because of their grades. So only 17 players are allowed on the team, which is not enough for a separate offensive and defensive squad. So the Armadillos are forced to play Iron Man football, which is a term for playing both sides. So most of your offense plays defense, and your defense plays offense. So you play football both sides, both ways. And so the team lacks experience and talent in all areas, especially a quarterback, place kicker, and defensive line. So Wally Riggendorf, Rig, played by Robert Loggia, finds Paul Blake, Scott Bakula, and he gets him to enroll and become the Armadillos quarterback. Blake arrives on campus and catches everyone's attention due to his age, especially Professor Carter, played by Harley Jane Kozak, who I liked her in this. I've always been a big fan of her anyway. And Blake then recruits a graduate student teaching assistant named Andre Krim, played by Sinbad, who has some fun lines and fun moments, and who was also enrolled at the school and still has some eligibility remaining. Blake convinces him to join, and he is positioned on the defensive line, where he excelled years earlier. And he's also a vegetarian. And as Rigg says, while he's on his back, he said, "I don't care, you can eat whatever you want." And so even with these new members, the team isn't able to win. They're terrible. They're so awful. And that's one of the things I enjoy about the film. It's just the film does a really good job with the choreography of just having these football players be absolutely terrible. Like, so bad that it's hilarious. Like, go for the handoff, and the two linemen run into each other. It's just complete chaos on the field. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They're hapless. Even in practice, don't know what they're doing. Can't complete a pass. Scott Bakula is trying to hit this track star guy named Featherstone, and he can't catch. So, but one time he actually ends up catching it. The ball ends up in his helmet, and I guess that's enough because that's at least the ball didn't end up on the ground, because that's better than nothing. But the guy can't catch, and Scott Bakula he sets up a play to go deep, the Featherstone, and he can't catch it, so he drops the pass. And that gets Scott Bakula's character on Hector Elizondo, his coach's bad side. So he benches him for Popke, the nerd, who puts people like me, in a bad place and makes us look bad. Can't fucking do shit. He's got glasses on underneath his helmet, and I'm like, dude, this guy, you're making me look bad, man. He can't throw the ball, can't do anything, and he hides behind the ref. He's like, time out, time is the play over, time out, time out. Oh, man, what a loser. But anyway, so they just keep losing and losing, and they lose by even more. They get blown out, shut out, lucky enough to score 6 points, if anything. And at one point, the announcer who does the radio, broadcast, played by Rob Schnieder in an early role, who does a lot of his shtick from SNL, the copy guy, Fumbleruski, Fumbalama, Fumbalaya, that guy. And I'm really not a big fan of that character anyway. Making copies. And anyway, but I did like the scene where, they're sucking so bad that he covers his microphone with his hands and screams, "Shit!" at the top of his lungs, because they're so terrible. And so they just suck. And so Carter tells Blake that she knows him from years earlier. Carter's ex-boyfriend was an high school football star, and Blake and his team humiliated him in his team in a championship game. And this episode actually caused Carter, played by Harley Jane Kozak, to become infatuated with Blake. And now, years after the fact, the two begin a romantic relationship, which they have a lot of chemistry, and I like the little bit of romance between them. But the flame gets blown out by Dean Elias, who's a dick. because like he's a dickhead, so he does what dickheads do best: be dicks. And he opposes this due to the fact that Blake is a student, Carter is a teacher, and this kind of makes them break up a little bit. Because Scott Bakula tries to get Harley Kozak to admit that, she loves him in front of this teacher, but she doesn't do it. So Scott Bakula leaves. Coach Rigg makes one more recruiting move to secure a kicker, and he shocks everybody by selecting Lucy Draper, played by Kathy Ireland, from Alien from LA fame, from the school's women's soccer team. When she's brought on board, the team has its first taste of success, as Draper kicks a field goal into a driving rainstorm to forge a 3-3 tie with Kansas, which is funny. And real-life Kansas holds the all-time NCAA Division 1A record for the number of tie games with 57. And during this game, after she kicks the field goal, I like this scene where there's a Kansas football player who's a dick. He goes up to her and he shoves her down. He's like, "Welcome to football." And then she gets back up. And then she says, "Welcome to football," and then kicks him right in the nuts. It was sweet revenge. It was just like, "Welcome to football." Like, oh, ah! It was a swift kick too. And so there, that's a lot of fun. Yeah, Lucy Draper is the first woman football player in Armadillo history. There's other characters that I liked a lot of the characters in the film, a lot of the players. Sinbad had some fun moments. He's like, "Tonight we're gonna party," because that's what we need to do. We need to let off some steam. Let's party. And Robert Loggia was fun, whenever he gets pissed off. He's like, "What happened? Who missed their assignment?" "Everybody missed their goddamn assignment." And there's another character who's Islander type. He's I'm just looking it up, like this character's name. Yeah, Manu Mama. I guess what his name is. Manu Mana the Slender, played by Peter Tuiasosopo. I like that. I like the character. He was a fun guy, and he plays offense and defense, and he's a fun character. And then you have this one guy who's played by Michael Dolan. His name is Eric Samurai Henson. And he's just a guy who does martial arts. And there's like one scene where he's there for tryouts, and Robert Loggia is trying to get him to do something. It's like, "Do anything and do your thing," and he just starts kicking the shit out of everybody. And I love it how in the last game there's like this penalty. He goes in, because this team that's number one team in the country, the Texas Colts, are kicking their ass. And so Robert Loggia, who's doing the interim coach for Gennaro, because he ended up he thought he had a heart attack, but in reality all he had was indigestion. But if Robert Loggia gets his first time to coaching at this big game against the number one team in the country, and the Texas Colts rivalry game. And the samurai guy, Robert Loggia just ends up unleashing him on the team, and he just kicks the shit out of everybody, like literally just does martial arts moves and full cleats and pads and everything. And I love how the ref, he starts saying, like, he says all the samurai moves, illegal move, front flip, backhand strike. It's like, oh, forget it. 15-yard penalty. First down. So that was a fun character. And then I like the scene in the sequence where they're trying out people in the gymnasium. There's this military guy who's all yelling and huffing and puffing and talking to Gennaro, and he's like, "Are you all that you can be, sir? You all that you can be?" He's like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Could you just not be, could you, it's a little much." I love that. You all that you can be? Yes, sir! Yes, sir! It's a little much. Tone it down. So... And then you have a young Jason Bateman in this as well as Jarvis Edison, who's one of the running back, fullback. He's an interesting character because he's used to getting a free ride because his dad is this really successful guy. But the character is well written enough that he doesn't like that. He doesn't like the fact that his dad's so successful that all he hears about is his dad and how he just gets everything so easy. And so he puts the team at risk because he's not doing well in school. And if he doesn't pass a certain class, he's going to fail, and then that's going to, one more, failed, one more failed grade from a team member equals the end of the team. So, and the end of the football program for the Armadillos. And so you have this little bit of montage where Scott Bakula gets Jason Bateman some help from Sinbad, the study, and he gets a C, and that's where you get the line is like, all right, no more basic losing. And then there's some other, fun scenes where they end up getting a bar. They go to this bar where there's a bull ride, an actual, place you can ride a real bull in the bar. And that's where they meet up with the Texas Colts and, their main big guy who's pretty much, he's like a all-pro defensive end or something. He's this big flat. His name is Flat Top, and he's this big hunk of a guy. I mean, I'm not saying like in that term because I'm not gay, but no offense to anybody who is, but he's this huge hulking dude, and he's really tall and just huge. And I'm trying to find the actor who played him actually. Tom Whiteknight plays Flat Top Myers, and then what's interesting as well is I forgot about this, but this is one of my favorite scenes in the film, is the dean's being even more of a bigger dick. So he ends up setting up a joint practice with the Texas State Penitentiary football team, which consists of real football players like Ed Too Tall Jones from the Dallas Cowboys back in the 70s, Tony Dorsett, former Cowboy, Jim Kelly, which is fun. It was kind of funny to see Jim Kelly try to be a badass. I mean, Jim Kelly of all people as a convict, Dick Butkus, Jerry Rice. Yes, Jerry Rice actually is in this. Ben Davison, Roger Craig, Jim Kelly, Herschel Walker, Randy White, who also played for the Cowboys in the 70s. So I just thought that was pretty funny, the whole convict football player. It's a really short scene, but like Evander Holyfield also has a little bit, and before he gets back on the bus, he's like, I think I swallowed a finger. But it was pretty cool. It was cool to see all those players, on the field, with these, bunch of nobodies. Earl Campbell is also there as well, who's a legendary running back. And Andrew Byrniarski also was in it he's not playing Leatherface. He plays a cowboy type player called Wyatt. And so yeah, I liked the majority of the cast of the guys who played the players, the Iron Man team of Armadillos. And Jason Bateman, it's really kind of surreal to see him in this film, but it's surreal to see him in Teen Wolf 2 as well. And this is a lot better than that. The film gets a 32% Rotten Tomatoes, which I think is way too low, but that's another story. But anyway, so after they get in a fight with Flat Top, and it looks like they might get caught, but Flat Top, is one of this is a star player for the Texas Colts. He's not going to get in trouble. So, the sheriff's in on it and everything, and there's no brawl. And of course, there really was a brawl, but according to the police, there was none. And, the dean comes in, he's like, what do you mean there's no brawl? There's no brawl. What? There's got to be a brawl. And then, so after the barroom brawl, they end up playing the last team that the Armadillos play is the #1 team in the country, the University of Texas Colts. And they head into the game as huge underdogs and without Gennaro because he was hospitalized before the game because he thought he had a heart attack. The reality was just indigestion. And I love how Robert Loggia is saying stuff like he's talking about like his last words were win or I will die. It's just win or I'm going to die. And then of course they get blown out in the first half. They go down 21-0, huge deficit. And then at halftime, I like the speech that Robert Loggia gives because he was trying to be somebody he's not when he got his first chance to coach. He's dressed up in a suit and everything. And here's his halftime speech. He's all like, "Now, let's analyze what's been working for us. Not a goddamn thing's been working for us. Like this goddamn suit doesn't work for me. And this stinky tie. And this goddamn shirt. It doesn't work for me. You want to know how to play winning hard-nosed football? You play football like Ed Gennaro played football. A guy who gave his life for this football team. He was a 140-pound halfback, and he played like a goddamn wild man. No, like a goddamn rampaging beast. That's the way you gotta do it. You go out there, and you tear their fucking heads off, and you shit down their necks. Let us pray." I just love it. Such an awesome, badass little halftime speech from Robert Loggia. And so he goes out there at halftime, and they start using some trick plays, and that was some good choreography of the plays, where they come up with the trick plays to score some touchdowns. They come up with a fake punt that helps them score, make it 21-7. They take the deficit down to 1 by actually. Wow, unbelievably, actually they rally in the second half to cut the deficit to 1, because it ends up hitting Feverstone finally. I think the second touchdown though, was that a defensive touchdown or something? I don't think it was a pick. I think it was another throw by Scott Bakula's character by Blake. Or was it? What was the running back? I don't really remember exactly how they cut it to 21-14, but 21-21. I think they tied it. No, I remember what they did. To tie it, right? They threw another pass. So yeah, Blake was just throwing passes and everything because they didn't have a running game that really worked very well. So they finally hit Feverstone though to get the tie, which I loved because I love that scene because this is the Feverstone is the guy who can't catch, and Rig, Gennaro shows up on the sideline later. He's fine, but Rig, of course, he's like, "Don't throw it to Stone Hands." Feverstone was played by Duane Davis. He's like, and so he throws it to Stone Hands, and he actually catches it, and then the game's tied at 21. The game's tied. It's actually 21-20, not 21, because they haven't gone for the extra point yet. So they decide, okay, let's go for the win. And I like the line of dialogue that Scott Bakula gives while he's in the huddle, where he's talking about trying to find it here. Trying to find the speech that he has here. Just hold on. I know it's got it. I know it's here. Just hold on. Forgive me. Sorry. There's just a lot of quotes that people posted on IMDb from this film. I like this one. Is in the huddle before the play to win, to go for the win, and Paul's talking to his teammates, and he's like, "You're hurt. You're tired? You're bleeding? Well, I'm going to make you a promise. We get into that end zone, and you're not going to feel any pain. And I like the little brief sort of things that this film does. It shows that these guys are getting hurt, actually. I like the little things that they show in the film. Like, you see Blake, you see his leg. He's cut up. On the final play, and he's running around. He's cut up. Like, he's got looks like a really bad scrape on his calf. Yeah, on his calf. So it looks really, it's really bad. And so you can tell that these guys are putting it all out there. And then, fittingly, the game-winning extra point goes to number 88, Banks. The guy who was the walk-on and the last remaining player from the team that was suspended, had all its players suspended, that used to have, was victorious all the time and had all this glory. And it's fitting. And he wears number 88, the same number that of the jersey that Blake was using on the Scarecrows for his practice. When he was back in the back of his farm just throwing footballs. And so he hits him right in the chest, just like he did on the farm. And the editing in the film I thought was really well done, especially in this scene where they edit it, where they cut and intercut the stuff where he's throwing at the Scarecrows. He throws at the Scarecrow and hits Banks right in the chest, and then they win. They beat the number 1 ranked team, and they don't go to the playoffs or anything, but they save the program. The dean gets fired in a memorable way, because he's trying to mess around with the homework, and Fred Dalton Thompson, basically, says that he's fired after the whole team decides to tackle him on the sideline, and Fred Dalton Thompson's like, "Oh, and by the way, you're fired." And this is a look on Dean's Elias's face. He's like, and then basically the movie ends with the armadillo mascot having like a fake gun in Dean Elias's face, and then it freeze frames. So that's Necessary Roughness. I really don't know what to say about the film, except that it's an enjoyable movie. I'd say, like I said, it's an above-average sports comedy. It's not the funniest thing ever. I would say the Longest Yard remake, Adam Sandler's funnier. It doesn't have the best football sequences. I would say that Wildcats, or even Wildcats is funnier. I would say Wildcats has better football scenes. Same goes for Any Given Sunday, without a doubt, definitely. But I like the football scenes in this better than the scenes in Replacements, though. Except for the last game. The Replacements, I guess the football scenes in this are on par with the last game in the Replacements. But the stuff before the Replacements, there's a lot of jokey stuff, and we really didn't even feel like it was actually there was anything. It was just there for jokes, which had its place, but other times it doesn't. That's a whole other story. But anyway, I really don't know what to say about Necessary Roughness, except it was rated out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's an above average film. 3.5 out of 5 stars from me. Enjoyable, fun sports comedy. It's no Major League, but it's not a total piece of shit either. It's a fun movie. I don't know what to say except thank you for watching my review of Necessary Roughness, and I will see you guys later. See ya.